want to challenge you guys. Your voice is very strong. You are very influential in various ways. But in most cases, it is the stuff that you will do in social media, the commentary that you will pass through, your various groups that go into your investment clubs and groups in Kenya. But you can still organize yourselves to be a very strong voice that cannot be ignored, even in political decision making in your country. Because you are Kenyan.
Ladies and gentlemen, Fred Matiang'I is committed to make William Samoei Ruto the first one-term president in the Republic of Kenya. Now let me explain to the doubting Thomases. Ladies and gentlemen, recently Fred Matiang'I hosted a meeting with the Kenyans in the diaspora, and he stated categorically his presidential bid come 2027. And ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of things that necessitated Fred Matiang'I to do such a thing in the United States of America. Now, first and foremost, you have seen the way William Samoei Ruto has been constantly harassing the opposition in the Republic of Kenya, especially Rigathi Gachagua. Whenever he convenes a meeting, William Samoei Ruto sends his goons to disrupt his meetings. And Fred Matiang'I has come up with a unique way to speak to Kenyans. You may say that there are only a few Kenyans in the diaspora, but let me explain to you that the message that Fred Matiang'I is trying to pass is actually reaching millions of Kenyans. You know that Kenyans in the diaspora are using the social media to communicate, and the messages that Fred Matiang'I is sharing with the Kenyans in the diaspora are actually taking social media by storm. And these messages are even hitting the mainstream media. Now, William Samoei Ruto is stranded. Will he send his goons and his rogue police to go and disrupt Fred Matiang'I in the United States of America? That's a question that I'm posing to you. Now, secondly, ladies and gentlemen, Fred Matiang'I is still working in the United States of America. Remember that just after the completion of the tenure with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, he secured a job in the World Bank, that is in the United States. And that is where he's actually working. And when Fred Matiang'I came to Kenya for his homecoming ceremony, he actually came to test the ground, whether the ground is with him or not. And Fred Matiang'I found out that the ground is actually with him. You saw the way the Kisii community came out in large numbers to actually join his homecoming ceremony. And actually Kenyans were actually concentrating on how the Gusii community are going to welcome and endorse their brother Fred Matiang'I. And actually, I know that Ruto's camp was very, very much shocked by that massive turnout. Ladies and gentlemen, another reason as to why Fred Matiang'I decided to pass some of his presidential messages to Kenyans in the diaspora is that he is also depending on the diaspora votes. Remember that even the Kenyans in the diaspora will vote come 2027. However much there are a lot of votes in the diaspora, but they are going to vote. So Fred Matiang'I is just leveraging on the Kenyans in the diaspora. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to briefly talk about Fred Matiang'i's presidential bid and what actually sparked his bid. First and foremost, during the Gen Z's protest, it is the Gen Z's who actually said that they want Fred Matiang'I to be the president of Republic of Kenya. When the Gen Z's decided to protest until they invaded the Parliament of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto was actually shocked. And that is the reason as to why in East Africa, Kenya is the only country that cannot be led or ruled by dictators, because there is what is known as the sovereignty of people. People have the power. The power is vested on people. And the Gen Zs actually showed William Samoei Ruto that they have power by invading the parliament. And after the invasion, they actually called out Fred Matiang'I to come and vie. Why, ladies and gentlemen? You may ask me, ladies and gentlemen, whether Fred Matiang'I is a Gen Z. No, He is not. But the Gen Z want a leader who can transform this country, who can liberate this country from the yokes of corruptions, who can actually resuscitate the economy of our country, Kenya. And they're seeing that from Fred Matiang'i's strictness and clean track records, ladies and gentlemen, during his tenure as the Cabinet Secretary of Republic of Kenya, they saw that Fred Matiang'i can become a very good president in the Republic of Kenya. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you also believe that Fred Matiang'i can actually become a president of Republic of Kenya and bring a lot of reforms and actually resuscitate the economy of Republic of Kenya, just tell me in the comment section. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me talk about the potential endorsements that Fred Matiang'i can get from the opposition. There is a serious political realignment that is happening. Remember that Fred Matiang'i's presidential bid is backed by Rigathi Gachagua and also Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And this time round, ladies and gentlemen, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is very, very keen. He is committed that he is not going to fail anymore. Remember that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta tried to back up Raila Amolo Odinga to become the president, but eventually he never became the president. And this time round, he has decided that he's going to back up Fred Matiang'i and actually support him where necessary to become the president of Kenya. And remember, Etwa Munyoro, Rigathi Gachagua actually showed interest in actually working with Fred Matiang'i. And that can actually tell you that Rigathi Gachagua is actually 50-50. Ladies and gentlemen, William Samoei Ruto is actually doing everything possible to bar Rigathi Gachagua from completely not appearing on the ballot come 2027. And Rigathi Gachagua is very wise. Rigathi Gachagua is not only interested in making William Samoei Ruto a one-term president, but he also wants him to go, even if it will take him backing another candidate to remove William Samoei Ruto. That will be a very big win, ladies and gentlemen, from the side of Rigathi Gachagua. Ladies and gentlemen, do you believe that Rigathi Gachagua can lobby the people from Mount Kenya to vote for Fred Matiang'i? Now, that is just another question, ladies and gentlemen. Just tell me your comments in the comment section. And ladies and gentlemen, in the event you're here for the first time, just join my channel by hitting the subscribe button below and actually turn on the notification bell. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to comment, to like and share this video. Bye bye.